Triple H has finally pulled back the curtain on Hulk Hogan.
So when he came in, I was well aware of who and what he was, and what he brought to the table. But the rocket ship that it was in that moment of him coming in, setting the place on fire.
From racist scandals to backstage sabotage and the quiet destruction of rival careers, Triple H is exposing why Hulk Hogan was never really the hero fans thought he was. This could change everything you thought you knew about him. Let me break it down. The company man's dilemma. The wrestling world was shaken to its core when WWE's chief content officer, Triple H, found himself in an impossible position, defending the indefensible legacy of Hulk Hogan while secretly harboring the same resentments that have plagued the locker room for decades. Behind closed doors, Triple H knows the awful truth about wrestling's most controversial icon. But as the ultimate company man, he's been forced to bite his tongue and play politics with a legacy built on lies, manipulation, and scandal. The mask slipped when Triple H reacted to Hogan's disastrous final WWE appearance at Raw's Netflix debut in January 2025. The crowd's brutal reaction to Hogan's return sent shockwaves through the wrestling community, and Triple H's barely concealed discomfort revealed what industry insiders have known for years. Even WWE's top brass struggles with the Hogan problem, but this story goes much deeper than a simple crowd reaction. Triple H has been walking a tightrope for years, balancing his role as WWE's creative leader with the uncomfortable reality of Hulk Hogan's toxic legacy. While he publicly mourns Hogan following his death on July 24, 2025, describing him as someone who transcended and elevated the entire business, the truth is far more complex and disturbing. The awful truth that Triple H can never publicly acknowledge is that Hulk Hogan's career was built on a foundation of manipulation, backstage politics, and systematic sabotage of other wrestlers' careers. The leaked audio from 2007, where Hogan used racial slurs including the N-word multiple times while discussing his daughter's dating life, was just the tip of the iceberg. What Triple H knows, and what the wrestling world has whispered about for decades, is that this wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a pattern of behavior that defined Hogan's entire career.
He gets caught on tape, saying some derogatory, racist things, and in this day and age where all of that is such a hot button deal. Like I don't know what you expect. Like people are gonna, they're gonna react, and they're not gonna react in a positive way.
The Undertaker, Triple H's close friend and confidant, has been more vocal about the Hogan problem than anyone else in WWE's inner circle. When fans booed Hogan mercilessly at his final appearance, The Undertaker showed no sympathy, revealing the depth of resentment that exists within WWE's locker room. This isn't just about racist comments. It's about decades of systematic abuse of power that Triple H has witnessed firsthand, but can never openly discuss. The 2015 racism scandal that led WWE to terminate Hogan's contract on July 24, 2015, remove him from their Hall of Fame, halt merchandise sales, and erase references to him from their website put Triple H in an impossible position. As someone rising through WWE's corporate ranks, he had to navigate the delicate politics of damage control while privately dealing with his own feelings about Hogan's true character. What makes Triple H's situation even more complex is his intimate knowledge of Hogan's manipulation tactics, including the infamous 1991 Survivor Series incident where Hogan faked a severe neck injury to manipulate backstage politics and force The Undertaker to drop the championship back to him just 6 days later. Triple H has heard these stories countless times from The Undertaker and other wrestlers who were victimized by Hogan's political maneuvering.
So we go back into the shower, nobody can hear us, nobody talk. He goes, hey, I'm really nervous about taking the tombstone. I got this bad neck. And I was like, Terry, I said, look, I promise you, I said, I'll take great care of you.
The Undertaker's detailed account of that night reveals the depth of Hogan's deception. Hogan pulled the young Undertaker aside before the match, expressing unusual nervousness about taking the tombstone piledriver due to alleged neck problems.
Boom, as soon as my knees touch, oh, brother, you got me. I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, I just crippled the golden goose. I just hurt Hogan.
Yeah.
I've gone from becoming champion till I'm gonna probably get fired over this.
After the match, despite video evidence showing his head never touched the mat, Hogan dramatically claimed paralysis, requiring paramedics and devastating the 26-year-old Undertaker, who feared he'd ruined his career.
Your head never hit. He goes, oh yeah, brother. Well, what it was that you had me so tight when you were protecting me, but you had me so tight that when I came down, like I didn't have any room to move, and it wrenched my neck.
This calculated manipulation didn't just hurt The Undertaker's push, it revealed the true character of the man WWE had built their empire around. Hogan later blamed Undertaker for holding him too tightly, despite evidence to the contrary, showing a complete lack of integrity that has defined his career. The Undertaker himself admitted years later that this incident opened his eyes to who Hogan was as a person, and left him questioning whether Hogan was trying to hold him back. Triple H's role as a company man has forced him to defend wrestlers he privately despises, and Hogan represents the ultimate test of that loyalty. When WWE reinstated Hogan in July 2018 after his racist scandal, Triple H had to swallow his personal feelings and participate in the corporate machinery of image rehabilitation. The fact that some wrestlers questioned the sincerity of Hogan's backstage apology at Extreme Rules only added to Triple H's internal conflict. The modern era of social media and wrestling podcasts has made Triple H's job infinitely more difficult. Fans now have access to backstage stories and can hear wrestler interviews that reveal the truth about locker room dynamics. This transparency has exposed Hogan's reputation as a backstage politician and manipulator, making it impossible for Triple H to maintain the facade of Hogan as a beloved legend. The racism scandal wasn't just about offensive language, it represented everything wrong with wrestling's old guard mentality. Hogan expressed disgust at his daughter potentially dating a black man, stating, "I am a racist to a point," while using homophobic language in related recordings. For Triple H, who has worked to modernize WWE's culture and image, defending such behavior goes against everything he stands for professionally and personally. Even The Undertaker, known for his loyalty to WWE and its stars, couldn't hide his true feelings about the Hogan situation. His admission that he has feelings for people and that sometimes in life, things come back, reveals the karma that has finally caught up with Hogan. For Triple H, watching his friend and mentor speak so candidly about someone WWE still officially celebrates creates an impossible tension between personal relationships and corporate obligations. The pattern of destruction. While Triple H maintains his public composure about Hogan's legacy, the extensive pattern of controversies and scandals surrounding wrestling's most controversial figure tells a story of systematic abuse of power that extends far beyond racist comments. The company man facade becomes increasingly difficult to maintain when confronted with the sheer volume of destructive behavior that defined Hogan's career behind the scenes. The steroid scandal of the 1990s provided an early glimpse into Hogan's willingness to deceive his fan base and the wrestling world at large. Hogan admitted under oath in 1994 to using anabolic steroids since 1976 to build mass, completely contradicting his "say your prayers, take your vitamins" image that had been marketed to millions of children. This wasn't just about personal drug use. It was about the systematic deception of an entire generation of fans who looked up to Hogan as a role model. The federal testimony that helped acquit Vince McMahon also revealed Hogan's willingness to protect the company at all costs, even when it meant admitting to years of steroid abuse. For Triple H, who has had to navigate WWE's modern wellness policy and drug testing protocols, the hypocrisy of celebrating someone who built their career on performance-enhancing drugs while preaching clean living to children represents another uncomfortable contradiction in the Hogan legacy.
When I said that I got beat my first, match after turning heel, the call was made by Hulk Hogan to have me get beat.
Scott Steiner's explosive revelations about Hogan's backstage manipulation provide a window into the systematic way Hogan destroyed careers and held back talent. The call to have Steiner lose his first match after turning heel came directly from Hogan, representing the kind of petty politics that defined wrestling's old guard mentality. This wasn't about what was best for business or storylines. It was about maintaining Hogan's position at the top of the card at all costs. The Buffalo Nitro incident that Steiner described reveals the extent of Hogan's control over wrestling promotions. Wrestlers had to wait until Hogan arrived at the building to find out if their scheduled matches would actually happen. This level of backstage power and manipulation created an environment of uncertainty and fear that affected everyone from main event stars to undercard performers.
10 minutes before the shows go on air, 10 to 8, I didn't know if it was going to happen or not. We had to wait till Hogan got to the building and say, "Clear it." Yeah, you could do what they have written down.
Steiner's assessment of Hogan's character was brutal and unforgiving. "He's a There's no other way he can say it, you know? He's a piece of shit. These aren't the words of someone with a minor disagreement. They represent the feelings of a wrestler who watched Hogan systematically destroy the careers and livelihoods of his colleagues for personal gain. The unionization sabotage represents one of the most damaging aspects of Hogan's legacy that Triple H can never publicly address. In 1986, Hogan tipped off Vince McMahon about Jesse Ventura's attempts to unionize wrestlers alongside King Kong Bundy, completely halting the effort. This betrayal of his fellow wrestlers denied an entire generation of performers better working conditions, healthcare benefits, and job security. For Triple H, who now oversees talent relations and has worked to improve conditions for modern WWE performers, Hogan's role in preventing wrestler unionization represents a fundamental betrayal of the wrestling community. Hogan confirmed this sabotage in his 1994 testimony, saying he opposed unionization, showing a complete disregard for the welfare of his colleagues in favor of protecting his own privileged position. The sex tape scandal and subsequent Gawker lawsuit revealed another layer of Hogan's problematic behavior. The 2007 secret recording of Hogan having sex with Heather Clem, wife of radio host Bubba the Love Sponge, was made without his consent, but it was during these recordings that his racist rants were also captured. The intertwining of sexual misconduct and racial hatred painted a picture of someone whose private behavior was completely at odds with his public persona. The massive legal victory that awarded Hogan $115 million and led to Gawker's bankruptcy was funded by Peter Thiel's personal vendetta against the media company. While Hogan won the legal battle, the moral victory was hollow when the same tapes revealed his racist attitudes and damaged his reputation permanently.
For what?
Well, I found out he was doing in TNA. So it was, when I left, I told a couple of let it be known, like, next time I see him, I'll slap the shit out of him.
Scott Steiner's account of the TNA incident that led to false police reports demonstrates Hogan's willingness to use law enforcement as a weapon against fellow wrestlers. Hogan called the San Jose Police Department claiming Steiner had slapped his wife and threatened to kill him, leading to charges of terroristic threats and aggravated assault. The fact that airport cameras proved the allegations false showed how far Hogan was willing to go to destroy someone who threatened to expose his behavior. The family dysfunction revealed through Hogan's reality show and messy divorce proceedings provided another window into his character. His 2009 divorce from Linda Hogan included accusations of infidelity and Linda calling him a sex addict and liar. The estrangement from his children, including daughter Brooke changing her last name after marriage, suggested deep family problems that contradicted his image as a family man. The pattern of lies and fabrications that defined Hogan's public persona created an environment where truth and fiction became impossible to separate. His fabricated stories included being recruited by Metallica, denied by the band, missing the George Foreman grill deal, denied by the inventor, and various other tall tales that served to enhance his legend at the expense of credibility. These systematic deceptions weren't harmless embellishments. They represented a fundamental dishonesty that infected every aspect of Hogan's career and personal life. For Triple H, who has worked to bring authenticity and transparency to WWE's corporate culture, defending someone whose entire public persona was built on lies creates an impossible moral conflict. The WCW creative control controversy that allowed Hogan to refuse losses to wrestlers like Jeff Jarrett, contributing to a lawsuit, and WCW's eventual downfall, demonstrates how Hogan's selfishness extended beyond individual careers to damage entire wrestling promotions. His refusal to put over talent and do what was best for business showed a complete disregard for the wrestling industry as a whole. The TNA mocking of fans and backing out of deals with wrestlers like Shawn Michaels continued this pattern of destructive behavior well into the later stages of Hogan's career. Even as WWE tried to rehabilitate his image, Hogan continued to demonstrate the same selfish attitudes and disrespectful behavior that had defined his entire career. Mark Henry's response to Hogan's racist comments provided insight into how the wrestling community really felt about these controversies. He called them the worst thing I've ever said, and noted that Hogan didn't want to do a tour of black colleges and law schools to explain what happened. This reluctance to engage in genuine education and reconciliation showed that Hogan's apologies were more about damage control than real remorse.
I'd bottomed out. I was having some problems with the marriage and financially, and the kids, of course, and I was kind of mad at my daughter, and there was a weird situation where I said what I said. She was a huge mistake. the worst thing I've ever said.
For Triple H, managing this extensive catalog of controversies while maintaining WWE's corporate image represents one of the most challenging aspects of his role as chief content officer. The sheer volume of scandals, from racism and steroid abuse to backstage manipulation and family dysfunction, creates a legacy that is impossible to defend on moral grounds while remaining essential to wrestling history from a business perspective. The impossible legacy. As Triple H navigates the complex reality of Hulk Hogan's death and the wrestling world's mixed reactions, the impossible nature of the Hogan legacy becomes increasingly apparent. The man who transcended and elevated the entire business simultaneously represents everything wrong with wrestling's past, creating a paradox that Triple H and WWE must somehow reconcile while maintaining their corporate image and respecting their own principles. The brutal reception Hogan received at his final WWE appearance revealed the depth of fan sentiment that Triple H could no longer ignore or manage through corporate spin. The boos at Raw's Netflix debut in January 2025 represented more than just a crowd reaction. They were a referendum on Hogan's entire legacy and the wrestling community's collective judgment of his character and career.
It's funny that, we were talking about this last night, that, with all the podcasts and all the books and everything, and everybody realizes that Hogan wasn't the guy that he was portrayed to be.
The Undertaker's candid assessment captures the fundamental problem with the Hogan legacy, the complete disconnect between the character WWE promoted for decades and the man behind the curtain. This revelation puts Triple H in an impossible position where he must honor someone's business contributions while privately acknowledging their moral failures and destructive impact on the wrestling industry. The Mount Rushmore debate that followed Hogan's death perfectly encapsulates this impossible legacy. The Undertaker himself acknowledged that, for what he did for the business, he has to be on the Mount Rushmore, while simultaneously showing no sympathy for the negative reaction he received from fans. This internal contradiction, respecting business impact while despising personal character, defines Triple H's own struggle with the Hogan problem. The wrestling community's response to Hogan's death revealed deep divisions that Triple H cannot publicly acknowledge but must privately navigate. Black fans and wrestlers expressed painful contradictions, with some noting that you never really got the feeling that Hulk Hogan truly felt remorse for his racist comments and attitudes. This lack of genuine accountability created a legacy problem that extends far beyond simple PR management. Podcaster Kazim Fahmiyad's observation that Hogan never seemed to show true remorse reflects a broader community sentiment that Triple H must consider when making decisions about how to handle the Hogan legacy moving forward. The fact that some black fans chose to check their blackness at the door to continue enjoying wrestling shows the impossible choices that Hogan's behavior forced upon entire communities of fans.
First of all, it was down to the mustache, the head wrap, the ripped off shirt. I was going, what in the world?
Terry Crews's reaction to Hogan's political activities represents another layer of the legacy problem that Triple H must manage. Hogan's appearance at the Republican National Convention, complete with his wrestling persona, blurred the lines between entertainment and political activism in ways that created additional controversy and division among WWE's diverse fan base. The conspiracy theories that emerged following Hogan's death, while lacking credible evidence, reflect the deep suspicion and animosity that his behavior generated throughout his career. Some social media posts claimed he was murdered to silence exposures of various scandals, showing how Hogan's pattern of controversy created an environment where even the most outlandish theories seem plausible to his critics. Roddy Piper's defense of Hogan provides a counterpoint to the overwhelming criticism, but even his support is qualified and defensive. Piper acknowledged that he didn't agree with all of Hogan's choices, but argued that people don't mention all the great things he's done when discussing his legacy. This grudging defense reveals how even Hogan's supporters struggle to reconcile his positive contributions with his negative actions.
With Hulkster, I don't agree with all his choices. But you know what? I don't hear people saying all the great things he's done.
The fundamental problem with Piper's defense is that it ignores the systematic nature of Hogan's problematic behavior. The say your prayers and take your vitamins message loses its moral authority when delivered by someone who used steroids for over a decade while preaching clean living to children, engaged in racist behavior, and systematically sabotaged the careers of fellow wrestlers. Triple H's role in Hogan's 2018 reinstatement following the racism scandal represents one of the most challenging decisions of his WWE career. Some wrestlers question the sincerity of Hogan's backstage apology at Extreme Rules, putting Triple H in the position of defending a decision that many within WWE's own locker room viewed with skepticism. The business argument for maintaining Hogan's legacy, that wrestling wouldn't exist in its current form without his contributions, creates a moral hazard that Triple H must navigate carefully. WWE's tribute following Hogan's death emphasized his role in making wrestling mainstream, but this celebration of business success inherently minimizes the human cost of his backstage behavior and public misconduct. The generational divide in fan reactions to Hogan's death revealed another aspect of the legacy problem. Older fans who grew up during Hulkamania often defended his contributions, while younger fans, with access to more information about his backstage behavior and controversies, were more critical. This divide creates marketing and creative challenges for Triple H as he attempts to present WWE programming that appeals to multiple demographics with conflicting views of one of wrestling's most important figures. The Undertaker's adoption of a zero-fucks-given attitude toward criticism of his Hogan comments reflects the broader wrestling community's exhaustion with having to defend or explain away Hogan's behavior. For Triple H, this represents both a challenge and an opportunity, the chance to move beyond the politics of managing Hogan's image and toward a more honest assessment of wrestling history. The international perspective on the Hogan legacy adds another layer of complexity to Triple H's challenge. While American fans are deeply divided on racial and political grounds, international audiences often view the controversies through different cultural lenses, creating additional complications for WWE's global marketing strategies and content creation. The educational aspect of the Hogan legacy presents perhaps the greatest challenge for Triple H moving forward. The reluctance to engage in genuine educational outreach about racism and its impact, as noted by Mark Henry, missed an opportunity to transform controversy into meaningful dialogue about wrestling's problematic past and its potential for positive change. The ultimate question that Triple H must answer is whether WWE can simultaneously celebrate Hogan's business contributions while acknowledging the moral failures that define much of his career. The company's handling of this balance will determine not only how Hogan's legacy is remembered, but also how WWE itself is viewed by future generations of fans and performers. The impossible nature of the Hogan legacy, simultaneously essential to wrestling history and fundamentally toxic to wrestling culture, represents the defining challenge of Triple H's tenure as WWE's chief content officer. His ability to navigate this contradiction while maintaining WWE's corporate values and respecting the experiences of those harmed by Hogan's behavior will determine the success of his leadership and the integrity of wrestling's historical narrative. As Triple H continues to build WWE's future while managing its controversial past, the Hogan problem serves as a constant reminder of the complex relationship between entertainment, business success, and moral responsibility. The awful truth that Triple H must live with is that some legacies cannot be redeemed or rehabilitated. They can only be honestly acknowledged in all their complexity and contradiction. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.